All right, we are live back, Tactical Citizen TV here. I have my guest today, which is Chuck, and Chuck is going to explain a few things about training with firearms that he does on a regular basis, and he's very good at. So let's hear from Chuck about, I think you just got back from a training session, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you offer training in the Atlanta area?
Yep.
Okay, and you train females mainly or males or?
Males, females,
Okay.
children.
All right. So what we're going to talk. Our topic of today is training and what type of training you're receiving. I know Chuck works in the firearms industry, so he sees a lot of customers. I'm actually one of the customers, so it makes sense that we always talk about customers and people who come in and just buy. Firearms, right, and then
Accessories.
don't get the training right behind it.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's important.
Yep. What, you good?
Yes, sir.
All right, that feel good?
Yeah. No, I stepped on it and the wire came loose. But
Oh, okay, you good. Yeah, no, shit, it's all good. There we go. Bam. I can always edit that out. That's the beauty of fucking doing this shit. You can just cut it right out and clip right to it.
yes, sir.
Okay, so anyway, let's start a little bit of topic, right? Do a little background. Coming into firearms, I know you're originally from New York, so I know there's different firearm laws and everything up in New York. So it's kind of a night and day jump from down here to up there as to what goes on. Kind of how you got into firearms, right? And then training as well as moving forward.
Gotcha. All right. Well, first of all, T, thanks
Yep.
for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. How did I get into firearms? Well, obviously, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Brooklyn, Brownsville to be exact.
Okay.
When you say gun laws, there is no gun laws up there. You get caught with a gun, you go into jail. So we wasn't privy to being able to play with firearms or the accessories or anything. So mainly my introduction into firearms is when I moved down here to Atlanta, Georgia in 2013.
Okay.
So what really got me motivated to get into firearms is the first time I came to the range was the very first time I ever been in a range because we don't have them in New York City.
Right.
I sucked. And I was doing it live to show my friends back home, like, hey, look what I got, look what I can do. And they crucified me. They was like, oh, you ain't hitting nothing. I thought you could shoot. Yada, yada, yada,
Right.
yada. So that motivated me to, I didn't want nobody to laugh at me no more. So
Right.
I got into it. I dived deep into it. I took it serious, and I started with competition. I started shooting rifle competition first. Then from there, it just took off, and then I got into pistol competition. And fast forward 9 years later, we here now. I'm a manager over at Bullseye Indoor Range in Lawrenceville. Shout out to my boys in Bullseye.
Hey,
Know who
shout
they
out to
are.
Bullseye. We love Bullseye.
Absolutely. So, yeah, fast forward to now. I don't say I'm one of the best, but I'm pretty damn good at what I do, brother.
Hey, I believe it too because I shoot with you, so that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. So you got into firearms roughly 10 years ago, moving here to Atlanta.
Yes.
So it makes sense because once you come to states like Georgia, Texas, Alabama and stuff, it's pretty much free reign. It's the Wild West down here. And I'm not saying that like it's dangerous, but it's very in tune to the individual,
Correct.
right?
You know, it's weird. As far as dangerous, it's a lot of guns around. It's a lot of cowboy stuff going on down in the southern states. But I feel more safe here than I did in New York.
Really?
Yes, because I'm able to defend myself, defend
Right.
my family, defend my loved ones. Not saying I couldn't do that in New York City, but
The risk of what
correct,
could happen.
Correct,
Right.
correct. So you almost at the advantage, at the mercy of a bad guy with a gun.
Right.
Because you really, there's law enforcement, everything up there. Down here, I'm my first line of defense, so I feel comfortable enough in my skill set that I can do what I need to do respectfully. And so, yeah, I love it down here, man. Shout
Yeah.
out.
So, okay. So you went from transition, diving headfirst into firearms, which is purchasing and shooting rifle, pistol. What gravitated you into training firearms? Or training customers or training people firearm safety and actual use?
All right, so once upon a time, I wanted to kind of get into the private security sector, like a bodyguard. So I had to take a course, an NRA certified pistol course, rifle course, and it started at that. I took that, and once I got certified, and then people was like, you shoot pretty good, you're knowledgeable. why don't you start training? And it just kind of fell in my lap. Like I wasn't looking to train nobody.
Right.
And it just kind of fell in my lap. So I was like, oh, if I'm gonna do it, I got to take it serious. So I dug deep into the history of firearms, just to educate myself so I can educate my customers. So, and then it just took off, bro. Honestly, it's just, and plus working where I work at, customers ask me all day, hey, do you do firearms? Do you do classes? Do you do classes? Like, all right, this makes sense. I love guns. I shoot a lot, we might as well do training.
Right. That's kind of like how I fell into it, was actually repairing firearms and having my own stuff, and having a friend of mine's dad came to me and was like, man, I got this old shotgun I need repaired. And I messed around, fucked it up, and it took me about 6 months to get it back together. And then that's what led me into Sonoran Desert Institute, getting training on gunsmithing and stuff like that. Been shooting all my life, so that's the unfortunate thing on your end. Hell, I think I've been shooting since I was 6 years old.
Jesus.
So that's coming from Texas, coming here to Georgia. So, but and that's how I think most people fall into it. You know what I'm saying? I always tell people, especially people who don't, not necessarily like or they really don't understand guns. Once you fall into the rabbit hole, it's a rabbit hole. You're in it.
And it's deep.
Right. And it doesn't take but about 30 minutes to start having fun and for somebody to say, oh, I was scared of this, but now, man, I love it. I want to go back. Because most of the people who I train, because that's how I fell into it, gunsmithing, then actually going and shooting, and then people saying, coming to my bay like, hey, man, what are you doing? Da-da-da-da-da. And then it just kind of gravitated into that. But the main thing is I find comfort in knowing that I can teach somebody to be safe with firearms, and it makes me feel safer knowing that there are people out there in my community, at least in my circle, that know at least how to be safe around it, at least to call somebody when it looks like it's real. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just to have some sense of awareness around it, right? So, been training. What do you find most, let's say, difficult about training strangers, and what do you find most enjoyable about training strangers?
Oh, that's a good question. Difficult. Let's start there.
Okay.
I would say the difficulty is one of the most important aspects of it, right? Is the safety, right?
Right.
When you're training or anytime you're dealing with a firearm, you have to drill into the person head safety.
Right.
Like that's the most important thing. Even before we even start talking about shooting, bullets, anything, safety, the safety aspect of it.
Right.
So once we get past that part, sometimes that's a hard concept for people to grasp, right? Because this firearm thing is new to them, right?
Right.
So let's just say we go through that scenario and then we on the range and we say, all right, you keep the firearm pointed down range at all times, right?
Right.
You still have some people, just because it's new and there's a lot of noise going around, they kind of regress from the safety aspect of it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, let's be safe first. But outside of that, bro, it's not really no downside. All right, I got one. Men.
Yeah.
Men.
Let me go ahead and guess. They always come with this preconceived notion of how they know what's
Oh,
up.
my God.
I get that with all males I train, man.
So I always tell people this, and I know I'm not saying I get flack for it, but I feel like women are better shooters.
Right.
And the reason why women are better shooters is because they're better listeners, right? So if you come to me because I have a skill set and you're trying to acquire, right? And a woman, I say, hey, listen, this is how I want you to hold a gun. This is slack. I want you to take up the slack. They listen. I do the same thing to a gentleman. Hey, bud, I want you to hold it. Now, because when I was holding the gun like this, and it's like, you got it, bud.
Yeah.
You got it, bud. So outside of that, I love it, man. It's crazy how when I was growing up, everybody associate firearms and guns with danger and bad. It's taboo. Stay away from it, especially in a quote-unquote black community. Stay away from it. Guns is the most satisfying thing ever, man. Like when you can go shoot, I go shooting sometimes just for fun. I take 100 rounds and might be having a rough day. It's weird because that relaxes me.
Right.
Like it's stress reliever for me. So it's really not a negative side to it. I love what I do. I love being able to take a new shooter who, like today I had a class, a mother and daughter.
Yeah, two females. I saw. Yeah, you're right.
Never shot before. The mother shot before a little while ago. Daughter never shot before, ever. We go through the scenario on how to properly hold a gun, fire, the logistics. And she put hole in, just to see the excitement in her face.
Yep.
That made me feel good. Like,
And some people are natural shooters.
yes, I told her that.
Right? Yeah,
Absolutely, I told her that.
They get in there and it just
Yes.
makes sense to them, and it just works out.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they're just naturally able to do it.
Yep.
And to touch on your difficulty end of it with males, for me, I think that it's males are so results driven
Yeah.
and they're not operation driven. Women or females are they want to know how it works,
Got you.
what to do, this and that. Males, they just want to hit the bullseye,
Yeah.
right? And so, and it doesn't matter how I hold it, as long as I hit the bullseye,
Right.
right? So it kind of comes to you know, this is kind of off topic, but we'll talk about it because he knows what I'm talking about. It kind of comes to that customer that came in with that FNX and said it was just jamming all the time.
Correct.
And then, you know, you asked me to go down there and take a look at it because you were busy. And I went down there and I said, hey, within 5 minutes, I knew it wasn't the gun. It was him. He was limp wristing it. And he didn't want to change his grip to try to accommodate.
Correct.
So his son was there. So when he went to get more ammo from up front, I changed the grip on his son. And his son started, oh, man, shoot, man, it's not even jamming anymore. His dad came back, and he went and grabbed it. And I said, look, your son's shooting it. Boom, he runs through a whole mag. I run through a whole mag. He gets it, failure to eject within 2 rounds, right? He said, see, it's just, no, change your grip, and it'll work. He eventually, stubborn, finally changed his grip. Gun works flawless. You know what I'm saying? But the first thing, and goes back to males, the first thing I didn't hear from him was, man, I appreciate you. You was right.
Correct.
I was wrong.
Correct.
And that's the willingness you got to have when you're in the gun. You got to really be willing to admit when you're wrong because it's a life and death situation.
And if you don't know, it's okay that you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, some customers, people get frustrated. We have customers coming in our shop and they'll ask a million questions.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is my time to inform you, to educate you,
right,
and give you something, right? And if you don't ask, you won't never know.
Yeah.
Right. So ask. Right. If I can shoot, but I still, if you give me something, some game, hey, bro, I see you standing this way. Maybe you should do it this way in a different scenario. If we maybe running and gunning or something,
right,
I'm going to take that.
If it
I'm
works,
not gonna say, hey,
if it works, it works.
I've been shooting 9 years. No, everybody, you can tweak it. It's a little tweaking to it, right? But
right.
I don't know. A lot of men, I just feel like they got that macho-ness that they don't want to feel like another man is telling them what to do.
That's a possibility too.
Like, no, I'm good because I can, and then, you know, I'll let them proceed to shoot and be like, yeah, you need my help, bro, because you can't hit the broadside of a bomb.
It's kind of like I shut those arguments down in the bays and say, okay, buddy, let me put this business card up, turn it sideways. I'm gonna shoot it. So you want to try this?
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, you was just macho about what you was doing on the paper.
Yeah.
Well, let's get some ultra hyper focus and see, does your grip, does your alignment and assignment make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's kind of like, it started out as a novelty for me, but then it's a quick training thing. But then what happens is this. I noticed this after doing competitions, rifle, pistol, shotgun, all that stuff there, and then starting to train people, it got to the point where people get not gun shy as far as being around the gun, but like when I do training sessions, I rarely shoot.
Yeah, me too.
Because what happens is they get more interested in seeing me shoot than them shooting. And I want to stay out of the way as much as possible. And if, at most, I might run 5 or 10 rounds just to show them position, show them grip and all that stuff, and then let it go because I want them to enjoy the experience. And then I don't want them to kind of bow out and lose valuable training time because they're wanting to see me, oh, do that again. Who shoot that knot on that tie on that clown? You know, just like, no. You get back and you shoot the knot on the tie. You know?
All right. So to that, I agree 1,000% with you. I come at it from a different perspective sometimes. I'll shoot.
Right.
Not a lot. But the reason why I shoot is because, hey, we new to each other. You don't know me, I don't know you. I'm charging you for something.
Like a proving ground.
Right.
Yep.
You're giving me something. So all right, that's like if I go, can this guy really shoot? Like I'm paying this guy whatever amount of money. And I've done that. I've taken classes with people and they were my instructor and
Better shooter.
With you,
yeah, better shooter. Yeah. I've had that. Most of my NRA courses that I've taken, like when I get into, even like when I got into the level 1, whatever it was when I took it, that was like 10 years ago. But that guy was like, you clearly don't need to be in this class. Like, of course you have to be here the rest of the day, but you clearly are advanced past this basic pistol class that we offer. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, I've been hunting and shooting and all that stuff since I was young. So it made sense to say, oh, okay, you know, this and that. But then I think I might have gotten the bug when I was in that NRA class. Yeah. Like just the instruction, people, you know, paying attention. And I think it actually it molded my self-defense firearm training into something where I was willing to spend a little money because I understood like the females that were in the class kind of jerking and jumping behind the shots.
Yeah.
So I bought, when I started training, I bought the laser ammo deal and the projector and everything so we can dry fire and use a laser that actually recoil and activated, but you don't have to worry about the bangs and the pops and everything like that because so like normally when I get them, if it's the very first session, they've never shot a gun before, we're going to dry fire and use a laser.
Yeah.
Because you can get the recoil, you can get the grip, you can get all of that, you can get interactive stuff with the projector and everything without all the bangs that are associated with it. And I normally tell them, hey, look, do you jump at a fireworks thing? Maybe the first one if you're not looking. But after you see them, you don't jump anymore. So it's the same thing as being in a shooting bay and you're shooting at other people. Hey, it's like firecrackers, like 4th of July going off. You're not jumping at every firecracker. It just might be the ones that boom because you don't know what's going on, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, like I said, I do a little shooting in the beginning just to show my skill set. Most of the time, that kind of all right, he know what he's doing,
right?
And then I back to them, and then we perform the tasks or whatever we got to do. But I for the most part stay out the way. I do a lot more teaching. I'm a little more hands on, like grip strength, showing a lot of things, and I see results fast, man. I see quick results, so I love it. I love doing it. I don't see me doing anything.
So what is your favorite platform to train? A rifle, pistol?
Ooh.
And I'm talking about a novice or somebody who's just coming in. Like, would you rather say if they're saying, hey, look, I don't know what to buy. I want something for self-defense, maybe home or something. And you say, hey, look, I'm going to train you on rifle or pistol.
That's kind of difficult, right? Because my self-defense, home defense gun is going to be a rifle, right?
Right.
But also, if you're a novice, it's a little different for me because I'm probably going to have like a 11.5 inch, 10.5, but I'm going to have a suppressor on it, right? So it ain't. I'd probably tell them a pistol.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm a Glock guy. I love shout out to Glocks. Glock 19, Glock 17.
Right.
Flashlight on it. I love my flashlights. Or a rifle, man. A pistol. If they're a novice, pistol.
I say this, and here is my thinking of it, and there's other people that don't agree with me. I would say this. I want you to get a rifle first. Reasons being, number one, it's much easier to acquire and use the sights and be more accurate with. Of course, you got longer sight radius. Makes sense. Number two, I think people in general are more ready to jump up and grab something like a shotgun rifle than they are wielding a pistol, because the pistol involves more training as far as, hey, okay, you buy a pistol for self-defense, but guess what? You got to train to shoot accurately.
Yeah.
You got to train to draw.
Yeah.
You got to train for follow-up shots. You got to train to not miss, because in the real world, a miss is a manslaughter charge.
Well,
you know what I'm
it's
saying?
The same thing with a rifle, bro. Because let's just say you have a rifle, right? You got it stored in your closet, your safe, where. What is the condition of it? Do you have to load it? Do you have to make ready?
Yeah, that's another big topic too, as well.
Novice people, they struggle with that.
Right.
To me, it's a little more easier with a handgun to put the magazine, rack the slide, and get into combat, as opposed to putting the magazine, racking around in the chamber, taking it off safe, acquiring a sight picture. Like, for a novice, I think that's a little more difficult than picking up a handgun and
I thought about
going
that
to
too.
work.
So what I thought about was, because I had that question come up to me, was on an AR-15, most novices are not very astute at racking the slide.
Correct.
Most gun platforms are pretty tough.
Yeah.
Besides Staccato, it's a big shout out to Staccato,
Shout out to Staccato.
Nighthawks, different things like that, where they got a real glass slide where
Right.
you can air rack them and everything.
Correct.
That's kind of different. Most novices, for me, and I had this question before, it's a little harder to rack that slide. But with an AR, I can slide, rack, lock the bolt, load the mag, and when I grab it, just hit the button, drop the bolt, and be ready to go. That, I'm not saying you wrong, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that was my, because that was my first question. It was like, oh, it'd be harder to grab where they're going to put it. And that's the same thing I was saying. Like, listen, most females, when I train them and they buy a pistol, I say, where you keeping it at? Oh, in my purse. Where's your purse at? In the car. That ain't going to help.
Correct. Yep.
Right? So I think most people shy away from it, not purchasing, because they start thinking about the aspects of their lives and where they're not going to really be able to pull it.
Yeah.
Right? I even talk to my wife about it, carrying it in a purse versus a book bag versus this, where you leaving it at.
That's another rabbit hole.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like, where is it going to get to? But it's the same thing for any weapon. And I want to make sure I stress that to the people out there. It doesn't matter what weapon you're fixing to pull out. If you can't draw it efficiently, right, whether it's a knife, a baton, bear spray, the pistol itself, a rifle, it doesn't matter. If you haven't practiced drawing that weapon, regardless of what it is, and the effective use of it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because sometimes I tell people all the time, I was like, sometimes the effective use of my gun might be he's in so tight, I got a gun buddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. To
get him off of me, to get space. So there's so many different scenarios that can go down, especially in an intense moment,
yeah,
a high violence situation, whatever. And most of the time I tell people, drawing the weapon really needs to be the secondary mission, because most people who are novices who draw the weapon get the gun taken from them because that's the first thing they pull out.
Correct.
So they know you got it immediately. Correct. Rather than me, myself, maybe I'm wrong, I'd rather have him bear hug me and I can let 3 off into his stomach because he don't know I got the gun.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And just so you guys understand about the law, and when it comes to forensics, things like that, they'll see from the angle of the bullets, he had me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it was a tussle.
Yeah.
Rather than now you got somebody who was 5 feet away from you that you're trying to explain that he had the knife and he was wielding towards you, because if the knife's 12 feet away, there's no way to know that he actually had the knife and was trying to stab you with it, right? So it's a to me, it's a wicked scenario, but
this is
how I look at it.
I feel like what people lack today is the first line of defense would be situational awareness. People lack that. And
that is correct.
I don't think that gets stressed enough. Like, people are so oblivious to what's going on around them because everybody's in their phone, social media, doing something else. But a lot of the times you can get out of a threat just before the threat even happened if you're just paying attention.
Right.
Might not even have to draw your firearm, or it might not even go that far for you, right? But people just not aware. Like, the situational awareness is just so minuscule that, yeah, you find yourself in a situation where you got to draw your gun on somebody 5 feet away from you.
I think the teeter-totter of that is situational awareness versus pride. Because I think most people end up pulling these guns here these days over pride first, more than situational
absolutely.
awareness. Because if they had situational awareness, they would know that person ain't the threat, that their ego is boosting them up to try to charge to be.
I'm gonna be real with you. People pulling guns because they can't fight, man. I come from a different era.
Yeah, that's firsthand.
Yeah,
I think, and that's the big misconception I think I always try to talk to people about is, hey, look, if you're buying this gun because somebody's calling you and threatening you right now, this ain't the time to be getting this gun, because you're not going to have enough time to train, and you're going to end up hurting somebody else. Right. Your best bet is to get you some bear spray or get you some things and set in line. Most times, here's what happens. Most violent crimes are intimate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, that word love lets somebody in a little too deeper than they're supposed to be.
That's the truth.
Right?
That's the truth.
And then, so now, because you've been in this certain way so long, it's hard for you to do that. To call the cops on them, to do I don't want him to go to jail. Yeah. Or that'd be the same chick who bail him out.
Yeah.
Don't whoop them and them, whooped her and them, bailed him out.
Absolutely.
Right? And then asking for help because he whooping me again. Shawty, you know what just happened, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think,
that's a touchy one right there, bro.
Right, exactly, it is, right? Because I've been in the shop. Yeah. I've actually been out with people saying, hey, and running into somebody at a gas station, or I think it was a grocery store. They was running from somebody who was, trying to catch them, but it was a husband or a boyfriend or something like that, just abusive situation. And I'm like, Shawty, you need to call the cops. And her response was, I don't want to send him to jail, though. And I was like, well, stop running. Go and let him whoop you.
Yeah. I mean,
and then it's a lady like, that's rude. I'm like, no.
That's real.
I'm just
gonna deal with reality. That's
right.
Real.
Yeah. If you don't want this to, you don't want this to stop. You just want somebody to feel for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know the era we live in, especially in our community. Calling the cops is just not a thing for us. That's a taboo thing.
Well, for us, I think there's like they say, thin blue line. I think there's that thin blue line that on our end, we're thinking about calling versus not calling due to time. The length it's going to take for them to get to us. Things like that. They're thinking about on an emotional or non-emotional, not logical for sure,
Definitely not logical.
of not wanting, because I don't want them to be hurt in that manner.
Yeah.
But I just want them to stop hurting me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which none of it makes any sense, by the way.
Exactly.
None of it. Hey, keep your hands to yourself, guys.
Yeah, don't do that shit.
Yeah, that shit whack.
Right. First off, I mean, if you're going to beat somebody, go and find somebody your size. That's what I find a lot of too.
Hey, look, that just happened. I think it was Chicago. Correct me if I'm wrong. The guy punched on a lady.
Oh yeah, and the son. She told the son to go get the car.
Yeah.
That they let the son out.
Yeah, they did. But here's the thing, right? None of that happens if you keep your damn hands to yourself.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it real.
Yeah. No, that's it.
I'm not saying who was right, who was wrong, who should have did what. That ain't my place to judge. I just know that if you keep your hands to yourself that day, that probably wouldn't happen that day. You're beating on a woman. That's whack. If you put your hands on a woman, that's whack.
Yeah, that is. And I think that goes back to pride and ego. I think that goes back to, somebody not sitting. And here's the problem. And this is well within the black community for sure. And it's in all cultures, right? Family members protect other family members out of some unseen code that, oh, that's Cousin Johnny. That's just the way he is. Shit, no. Cousin Johnny look like he want to blow up a fucking gas station.
Correct.
Right? And you going to be tied to it because Cousin Johnny got your same last name.
Correct.
And everybody know Cousin Johnny's your fucking cousin. And then you're going to get all these questions like, well, why you didn't stop your cousin? Why you didn't do that? Man, I didn't know that nigga was crazy like that. So,
and that's when things
I think
start
the
coming
protection
into
starts in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And we all got those family members that we know might be a little off.
Right.
That I probably wouldn't dare call the police on. Dare I not say that because I'm in the firearms community, and you should. But we all have that one family member that we should know. Hey, buddy, you shouldn't be owning any firearms.
So, good question that just crossed my mind. What is the number one question? And let's put it in two parts. Number one question at the gun shop that you get. First, number one, most ridiculous. Second, number one, most thought-provoking. That makes you think like, dang, man, that's a good question. I didn't really think about it from that aspect.
First one is the most ridiculous that I get. That's a lot of them, bro. But for the sake of time, I'm gonna give you one.
Right.
Do you have ammo for a Glock?
Oh shit! They don't tell you what caliber or nothing. They just say a Glock.
Like Glock, take a specific ammo,
Right.
and it's like, huh? What caliber? Glock. I'm not gonna lie to you. At this point, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
Somebody help this guy. Right? Yeah. I'm annoyed, but that's one of the most thought provoking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, bro. I don't think I've gotten.
I think you get more ridiculous questions than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll get some people that say some things, and I'm like, that's a hard one, bro. I haven't had any thought provoking, and I'm not. My customers, I love you guys. I'm not saying you guys ain't give me anything thought provoking, but it's not coming to me right now.
Okay. So my next question is to favoritism within the gun community. They call it fanboy, right? And we find, because you're in the gun shop industry, we find that a lot of fanboy gets translated into sales. I told a Glock, so I'm gonna try to sell you a Glock, right? More than, hey,
Got you.
My thought process of it is, through buying a bunch of guns, is, man, I want the most comfortable gun for me. And it might be, Lord willing and the creek don't lie, Taurus or some dumb shit like that.
Yeah.
But if that's what I feel comfortable with, man, I want you to shoot it. Or that's what they feel comfortable with, man, I want you to shoot it.
And not only that, sometimes, as well as comfort, sometimes budget. Sometimes people just don't have the budget for some of the higher end guns, right?
Right.
So for me, and you could go on our Facebook page, Bullseye Indoor Range, and you can check my reviews, right? I'll take you through especially if you're new to firearms, right? I'm not gonna sell you a gun that I think is popular. I'm gonna take you through you're gonna go through everything with me,
Right.
from start to finish. We probably start at the revolver. I'm gonna tell you why not.
Right.
Start at 380. I'm gonna tell you why not, and then I'm gonna take you through a litany of firearms.
Right.
And then at the end, you'll make a rational decision on how each gun felt to you, because honestly, got to be real. It's mission dependent.
Right.
What do you plan on doing with this firearm? Because most
Right.
people buy guns, bro, in their car or they throw it in the closet and they don't see it anymore.
Right, that's
so
right.
what is the mission for,
Right.
what is the reason why you're buying this gun?
Right.
And then also, if you have time, all of the guns that I just showed you, let me take you to the range because we have them on the range and we can shoot a couple. So
Right.
now you can see what you shot better, what felt comfortable while you were shooting it, and you make a decision based on that. And if you take your time with a customer and you take them through those steps, you get good results, bro. I'm not gonna sell nobody. We don't get paid commission.
Right.
Right? And I'm not forced. I don't work for Glock. I don't work for any of these companies, so I'm not forcing anything on anybody. I can tell you what I use, what platforms I use, what work for me.
Right.
I can tell you what platforms that I see that I don't want to say don't work, but have the most issues that come back or might have to go back to the factory.
Right.
And you make your decision based on that.
Right. I think that is the most informative way to do it. I think I go into, because most of the time when I train people, they ask me either if they have a gun, 9 times out of 10, they want whatever I have brought with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the Staccato or the DWX or whatever it is, the Glock 17 that's just tricked out. They're like, oh man, my little Taurus, I want something like that.
Yeah.
Right? And what I try to do is say, compartmentalize this. Let's say, what do you want to do with it? Is it just target shooting?
Right.
Is it personal carry? Is it home defense? Is it vehicle defense? Is it business defense? Right? Because you could have a business that has a storefront, and you don't want a scatter gun and you got glass windows and stuff like that, or there's children that shop in your establishment, whatever. So, certain situations. But also beyond that, I look at, hey, let's be honest, how are you going to carry this?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't like to keep one in the chamber, right?
Makes no sense.
I understand that, but there are a lot of people that feel like, I get this all the time. I don't know why you shoot Glocks. They don't have any safeties. They're a fucking dickhead. You obviously don't know what's going on. But, right, I get where the idea comes from.
Well, not to cut you off, but that is typical. That's a flaw. That's a training issue. You don't feel safe with this gun is because you don't train enough.
Right.
And if you trained enough, shout out, train with Chuck. If you trained enough,
Train with Chuck, TWC, baby.
TWC, baby, follow me on Instagram. If you trained enough, you would feel comfortable with a round in the chamber. I always tell people if you don't have a round in the chamber, you carrying a paperweight.
Well, I'd say the same thing because I tell them there's 2 things that you have to look at. Number one, there's not a holster out there besides a true competition rig that I use in USPSA that actually has the trigger exposed, right? Because it uses the nipple and the guy just on the guard, right? Every other holster made to man has a trigger guard, right? And no gun on the face of the earth goes off without the trigger pulled.
So I have.
Well, there are exceptions.
Yeah.
Right, drop fire. I get it. You
I'm
guys,
not gonna name drop.
Don't fucking burn me.
I'm not name
but
dropping.
You guys understand? In general, 99.9% of the time, the gun's not gonna go off unless you pull the trigger.
Correct.
Right.
Or it's a high point. I mean, anyway.
You did too much filing on your 1911 series.
Yeah. So I tell people this all the time. A lot of it's women.
Right.
And so women. A lot of you women. I'm not bashing you, but a lot of women, y'all don't feel comfortable. I always tell them this. I say, they're like, this gun doesn't have a safety. I carry appendix. Right? So if I pull my, they're like, you got that gun pointed down there? Take this gun home. Keep it around in the chamber. Put it on your nightstand for 2 weeks. Come back and tell me how many times that gun went off. It doesn't happen, bro.
Yeah.
In order for your firearm to discharge, you have to
manipulate it in some way, shape, or form.
Intentional.
Now, generally, it's the trigger.
Correct.
Of course, you can probably throw it at a good angle and get it to pop off. And some of the older guns, we get it. It's understandable. But in general, the majority of the time, you're going to have to put your finger on the trigger to pull it.
Carry it around in the chamber, please.
For the gun in there. So getting to my topic, what I was saying was, for those that say, oh, Chico, I really don't want to carry with a round in the chamber. I say, okay, cool. So when it comes to this, we have to trade comfort for speed. So I'm going to get you off of this, let's say Glock 43, and put you on a Smith & Wesson Easy because it's easy to rack and slide. You see what I'm saying? So because I know you got to add that time to rack. And if you're not comfortable, hey, I'm not comfortable. I want you to work towards the chamber, the round in the chamber. But as it stands right now, rather than you not having the gun on you because you're scared to put one in the chamber, I'd rather you have a gun on you but be able to rack it. Right?
I disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a little bit. I think instead of that I disagree, but I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Totally. I'm more in the mindset of instead of me even trying to get you to that right, I'd rather train you on how to carry this gun with around in the chamber.
Right.
It's again it should be your duty if you're carrying a firearm. I don't care who you are. If you're carrying a firearm, you should train with the firearm. You don't got to train with me. You can train with anybody, but you should spend time training with this firearm. This is the one thing that can incapacitate a human like this, right? You want to do it safely, right? You want to be safe with it. So you buy a gun and you don't feel comfortable with it around in the chamber because you buy the gun and you never step foot in the range again.
Right.
Just train.
I think that happens to me sometimes when I'm training, because I have some sessions that go well.
Yeah.
And within about an hour, this person is hitting bull at 7, 10 yards. And then what happens is I call them and, hey, man, you ready for another session? Oh, no, I'm good. Because they saw the results so fast.
Yeah.
So what do you say, or is there a method, and I'm not saying that you use to try to jig your customers, but I'm saying in making sure that they want to stay committed to coming back and training. And I normally tell people, hey, even if you don't train with me, train with somebody, right? Reputable, of course, but at least train with somebody and train often. Now, if you can't train with somebody, but you can go to the range, at least what would you recommend times per month for a novice being in there? Let's say if they get 1 or 2 training sessions, right? How often do they need to reinforce those?
I don't think shooting is a perishable skill, right?
Right.
You know that.
Yep.
If we don't use it, we lose it. It's
Right.
just like riding a bike, right?
Right.
So if you want to keep your skill set up, you got to practice, right? You shoot. I watch you put a card sideways and split it one shot. At that point, you can walk out the range and be like, I never got to step foot in here again. I'm good.
Right.
You constantly train.
Yeah.
I'm a decent shooter.
Right.
I constantly train.
Yeah.
Right. So if we had a skill set where we at, but we still training.
Same thing with NFL. Same thing I say to my kids on the football team at the youth level is like, hey, look, these same fundamental drills that we're doing, you will be doing. If you go to the NFL, you will walk in and be doing bear crawls and different things like that and stuff and sprints and shuffles, and it's going to be the same all the way up. So if they're making millions of dollars still doing this,
that's right.
You got to learn to love the mess. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a powerful thing. I think most of the time when I call and talk to customers of mine, not, trainees, I think they start thinking about, well, I don't think I'm really in an area of town where it's this and that, and I need it all the time. Because I'll call and say, hey, you still got your stuff on you, done it? Oh, no, I've been leaving it at the house. I feel embarrassed. I haven't had time to train and this and that. And it's kind of like, man, if you break down to 24 hours in a day, you got time.
Yeah. But you know why that happened? Because they're not really into it. I learned something about most new shooters and most new gun buyers. They reacting off of emotion. Something happened to them within the last period of time where they feel like, oh, all of a sudden now I need a firearm, right? So they obtain a firearm, might take a class, might train a little bit, and then once that situation that made them go away, it's like, all right, I don't need it again until something else happens again.
Right, and then it's having to replenish and refresh the whole thing all over again.
Correct.
Okay, so I have a theory that I use even in my own practice. So whatever platform I buy, I generally buy it in a 22. A, more economical ammo. B, still grip, same feel type, or close to it. Some of them of the 22s are not exactly the same as their parent gun, I would say, but for the most part, most of them are pretty much same size. Yep. You're shooting it. The PDP comes to mind, Walther, and the SIG 322 is about the same size as the 365. Yep. It's not the 320, but it's in between the two. Because you get to practice with that platform, triggers should be close to the same, but not have to expend the 9mm ammo, which 9mm ammo is pretty cheap right now. I think online it's going for like $12.
It's getting better.
$11, $12
it's getting better.
A box of 50. Yeah. But in stores, it's going to be $15 to $20, $24 a box for the FMJs. And then, of course, your hollow points is always going to be $30-something. That's just the way it is. I've always found an issue with that because you're cutting half of my bullet out. Yeah. You're going to charge me more. Yeah. Right? Same powder, less bullet. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we're just cutting it so it expands. I get it. But dang it, shit. It's like a pistol versus a rifle. You're going to charge me the same amount for the pistol as the rifle, but you got more handguard, more barrel, more, you know what I'm saying? Like,
ooh, there's some companies I can shout out right now. I won't do that to you guys. I won't do that to you guys.